Hey team, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, core design engineer with Brunswick Bowling, and welcome back to another in a long installment of videos where we are taking a look at some comparison charts for each individual brand. We're putting each brand's current arsenal up on the chart, and we're showing you how they compare to one another in terms of the oil volume they're built to handle and the shot shape that they're built to make. Of course, we're talking about the new Bowl Expo releases for each brand, and today we're talking about the Track Theorem Solid, which just debuted at Bowl Expo 2025. So what we'll do is we'll put all of Track's current arsenal on a chart to give you a comparison of how they stack up against one another. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Theorem Solid and show you how it stacks up against the current Track arsenal as well. First, what I'll do is I'll take a quick lap around this Track Theorem Solid just to remind you guys what it's about inside and out, and we'll start on the inside with the core. Of course, this is the now famed MC² core that is asymmetrical. It is the powerhouse for the Track Theorem Solid right here, but of course all of the balls in the Theorem lineup as well. It has a very low fast revving RG at 2473. It has a surprisingly moderate differential at 046. That's going to be medium flare potential, and with 17 points of intermediate differential, it's going to give you a pretty rapid response when it encounters friction. That's going to shorten up your hook window and allow it to change direction rather rapidly. It is a rather unique pairing in the industry to have a rather medium flare potential paired with a rather high intermediate differential, so that has what has been making the Theorem line stand out. It's got a wide range of utility and relatively sharp motion overall, despite the fact that it is in fact a low RG fast revving core. And a big part of the reason that the response at the back of the lane is so good is, of course, the cover stock. This is actually a little bit of a change for the Theorem lineup. It is the HK22C Super Response Solid cover stock. This is a pretty big change in cover stock for the Theorem lineup. Not only is this the first sanded cover stock on the Theorem series, but also this is a change in both the base chemistry and the additive package. We went from the same hook base HK22 to now HK22C. C of course stands for cohesion. That's our strongest additive that helps the ball glue and slow down in the mid lane, helps the ball stick and change directions a little better at the back of the lane because of the rate that the cover is now slowing down in friction. And of course now, instead of having the prime response additive package, we've gone with super response here. Super response is actually an additive package that you first saw in the Criterion lineup, and it really helped the smoothness and the continuation at the back of the lane. This has actually been pretty good for our strong asymmetrical balls in the Track lineup, because instead of being a jerky motion in the mid lane, which has a tendency to allow the heavy rolling asymmetrical cores to get a little forward at the back of the lane, the super response is both responsive in terms of the way it changes direction, but also helps out with the continuation. I felt that because of the way the ball slowed down with the cohesion additive, that cohesion was also helpful in that regard. So when you combine the two together, you have an asymmetrical core that is wrapped in a cover stock that is amongst our most continuous and responsive. What you've got is basically a ball that sticks to the back of the lane, changes directions quickly, but doesn't quit and go forward when it goes through the pins. It tends to continue through the pins, and that's very helpful for, of course, entry angle and carry through the pin deck. So a little upgrade here, which is going to make this solid ball be a little more responsive than you expect for an advertised solid to be. We're going to shift gears here now, and we're going to talk about this chart and how to pick a 6-ball arsenal out of the current Track lineup. Before we do that, I'm just going to give you a little introduction about how the chart works and talk about why I picked 6 balls. This is actually super simple, and it's going to go super quick. We picked 6 balls because that is 2 3-ball totes. You can pick your favorite 3 for the house shot china, put them in one bag, and leave the other one in the car if you want. And if you're traveling to a local tournament, a tougher condition, or just a house that you're not exactly sure what you're going to get week to week, or a house that you're not familiar with, then it's easy to take all 6 balls, 1 triple ball tote in each hand, into the building, and you've got a full complete arsenal with the widest range of options for you to choose from, so that you're not shut out of playing the line that the lanes require. And we're going to do that by picking 2 balls from each of the following categories. On this chart, you'll notice the y-axis is the strength in terms of the amount of oil volume that each ball can handle. And on the bottom, on the x-axis, left to right, is the amount of shot shape, or in other words, the smoothness or the sharpness that the ball makes once it starts to hook. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick 2 balls from each of the oil categories. That is heavy oil, medium oil, and light oil. And from each of those, we've got 2 balls. We're going to want to differentiate the shot shapes into a smoother shape and a sharper shape. So you're going to do 1 smooth, 1 sharp from heavy oil, 1 smooth, 1 sharp from medium oil, and you guessed it, 1 smooth, 1 sharp from light oil, for a total of 6. That's super simple. So let's take a look at this track arsenal real quick here. As I pop these up on the screen, a couple disclaimers for you. Number 1, this is just my opinion. This is not the opinion of track marketing, of Brunswick Bowling, or anything like that. Although I do think our marketing team and our R&D team do coordinate really well, and for the most part, the difference in opinion that I have compared to the marketing or the branding of the bowling balls is usually nuanced. Caveat number 2 is this is 1 year's worth of bowling balls for the track lineup. For the bigger brands that have more bowling balls, such as Hammer and Brunswick, this is a little more pertinent, but for track, the lineup is pretty much year over year anyway. But just on record, there are some balls that are available still to you, such as the Theorem, that won't appear on this because it's over 1 year old now. And what we'll do in a little bit when I'm done talking about this chart is we'll transition it by removing last year's Bowl Expo balls and putting the newest Theorem Solid up on the list. And what we'll do before we do that is we'll just take a walk around this chart and we'll take a look at what track's current lineup looks like. And we're going to start in the top left with the heavy, strong, asymmetrical balls. You've got your Criterion lineup right here. And the Criterion is a strong but smooth ball. It actually operates with a slightly higher RG than you would expect for such a strong, smooth ball overall, but an intermediate differential that plays squarely in the medium range, so it's going to be a relatively smooth motion. It's not going to be too hook set. If you want a ball that makes a little more shape from the mid lane to the pins, look no further than the Paragon Shadow. This one, of course, harkens back to the Paradox Black color scheme, but it does give you more overall strength and shape from the mid lane to the pins with this HK22C cover package that's on it. And if you want a ball for a little more length and strength, then Criterion is still going to be that heavy rolling, strong mid lane reaction, but in a shiny package that gets you down the lane a little further with a little more kick in the late mid lane as opposed to the early mid lane. I do think that because of the, again, continuation package in the Criterion cover stock, this one has a slightly longer hook window, so it starts relatively early in the mid lane for a shiny ball, but still gives you decent continuation. If you're looking for a ball with a little more push, if you don't have a dead flood, or if you're a more rev dominant or match player as opposed to a speed dominant player, then you're going to shy away from these options. Look at a slightly strong, smooth option in the symmetrical category like a stealth mode, or for more length and change of direction at the back of the lane as opposed to the late mid lane, then of course we're talking about the Theorem series. The Theorem Pearl is up on the chart, and I would say that the original Theorem Hybrid, the better received of the two in the current lineup, just a little more strength and a little sharper than this ball both. So that would probably be just up and just right of the Theorem Pearl. I know I'm going to get that question, so I'm just going to get ahead of it by putting it right in the video. A step down from that, really a half step down, is your Stealth Hybrid. And then if you're bowling on burnt conditions or late in transition in a long block, such as a 5-game or 6-game tournament block, then your Cypher Pearls, your Tundra Blue Fires, they are going to do amazing for getting you through the heads and getting you shape at the back of the lane without being jerky or uncontrollable. It's length and hard arcing motion that it isn't super flashy, but it's exactly what the doctor ordered for a late game block with plenty of mid lane friction. So all told, a nice well-rounded arsenal here in the track lineup. A few layout tweaks and you can cover all the gaps no problem. So what we'll do here is we'll flip the magic switch and we will transition this chart to be the 2025 Bowl Expo chart. You'll notice that Stealth Hybrid and Tundra Fire, last year's Bowl Expo releases, have gone by the wayside, and in its place is the new Theorem Solid. The Theorem Solid, as I mentioned previously, gives you a little more shape than you might expect out of a strong asymmetrical ball. It's also just a little cleaner than the biggest, strongest asymmetrical balls currently in the market, which means it's built to handle kind of splitting the gap between the heaviest of oil conditions and the medium oil conditions. What this means means for you is that it's versatile. Versatility, I mean, in one word. It's going to give you more length and change of direction than any of the other solids or hybrid sanded balls currently in the lineup. And it's playing in a sharpness range that's flirting with some of the compounded balls. That's how much shape at the back of the lane this core cover combination is giving you. So if you want a really versatile piece, it can be a benchmark ball. This is an overused term, so I'm going to be very careful about how I structure this here. If you want a benchmark ball as a speed dominant or rev challenged player, I would suggest the Theorem Solid is your number one choice. If you are a matched or more rev dominant player, then this could easily be a first ball out of your bag for fresh conditions, heavier conditions, or longer, flatter sport conditions, where a little more shape is warranted on that particular sport pattern. Some of the longer sport patterns, as an example, don't have incredibly high volumes. That's an example of where I would see the utility of the length and strength of the Theorem Solid being an advantage over something super heavy and super chuggy, such as a Criterion or a Paragon Series ball. But overall, this is going to be really good on higher ratio, heavier, fresher conditions. So in terms of arsenal building, this one's just a little bit tricky because it could fall into a number of different categories depending on how you look at it. Technically, it is flirting in the range between heavy and medium oil, so you could place it as a heavy oil ball or a medium oil ball, and technically it's like in what I'd call the hard arc category of ball motion, where it's not smooth and super slow responding, but it's also not your sharpest option off of the friction. So I would say where you put your Theorem Solid depends heavily on the balls that you are fitting it around in your current arsenal. If you're a high rev player, this is probably the strongest ball that you necessarily need at the top of your bag. And when you're tackling some of those heavier, longer, more difficult conditions, you can always use a little bit of surface to cheat it toward the top of the arsenal and a little further left in the smooth category. If you are a player that has trouble getting the ball started, you need some of the help from the asymmetry and the biggest, strongest covers available on the market to you to compete with some of the higher rev rates around you, then I would say that this would be your medium sharp ball or medium smooth ball, depending on what else you have, and you would easily fit a Criterion or a Paragon above it as the medium smooth category ball. And then of course you could slot something beside the Theorem Solid, whether it be the Criterion or the Theorem Pearl, as a sharp ball in the heavy oil category or the medium oil category. I hope you enjoyed learning a thing or two about the Theorem Solid and how it's going to fit into your personal arsenal. If you have any questions about the Theorem Solid, if you have any questions about your personal arsenal, how the Theorem Solid would fit into your personal arsenal, or construction about your arsenal itself, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you are interested in checking out a video like this one with a chart like this one for any of our other brands, I have 5 other videos currently on my YouTube channel at Bowling Buckosh, and also on Facebook if you prefer that platform. That would be a rarity. In the next video, we're going to be talking about Radical, the Bowl Expo releases that are the Guru, Oracle, and the Snapshot Hybrid, and we're going to be taking a look at the Radical Bowling Arsenal chart as well. One caveat is that Radical maintains its own chart by yours truly every release cycle. So every 2 months it has its own comparison chart available on radicalbowling.com. So I won't be using this format exactly, but the format translates very easily. So we'll be taking a look at that chart. We'll be comparing the newest Radical balls to their current arsenal, just like we did for these other 6 brands. One more thing I'll say before I get out of here. We're not expecting you to buy every single bowling ball that comes out on the market, and we know it can be information overload. So I am just providing this to you as a resource so that you know how all of the products fit together, and you can make your best buying decisions to piece together your arsenal without too much overlap, so that you can have the most versatile and well-rounded arsenal that you can build without wasting money by overlapping your equipment. So I hope you found this resource helpful, and if you did, check out my other videos, and of course I will see you in the Radical video next time. Thanks for watching.